Coming up this weekend at lightweight, an absolute banger, a fight you should be excited about, and I'm so glad you could join us with Fight Night picks. As always, one half your host, Craig Allen. Twitter and Instagram at Craig Allen FNP. With me to my left, to your right, as always, Matt Allen on the respective socials at Matt Allen FNP. And if we could have put together a fight, it probably would have been Tsarukyan versus Gamrot. The former KSW double champ is the man out of Poland. He was a champ at featherweight. He was a champ at lightweight. He had 6 total title fights over there and 2 fights against Norman Park that were supposed to be title fights, but Norman didn't make the weight. And for Storm and Norman, amazing fights against Gamrot, tons and tons of damage, a lot of fun to watch. But you look at it for Gamrot, 20-1 with a no contest, the one loss to Guram Kutataladze. He lost by split decision. People have made arguments either way. I won't make them, but all of this to say,
do it though, Craig, because I want to hear who you won.
I thought Guram won. Okay. But to look at it, Matt, for Gamrot, you look at the last 3 fights. He beat Scott Holtzman and looks amazing in that fight. Pretty well face plants him and then finishes up with a little bit of ground and pound. Finishes Jeremy Stevens by Kimura, which was to be expected because of how good he is at grappling. And then he beat Diego Ferreira because he hit him with a knee from behind to his rib. That, if you look at it, Diego goes to referee Jason Herzog and goes, I'm done. And Herzog goes to rush in and Gamrot goes, I'm not done. Grabs the neck, and then pulls him into the rear naked choke. But ultimately, it's a good finish win for Mateusz Gamrot. But if you look at it for Gamrot, he's kind of like a car crash striking over with KSW. He's refined it a little bit since he's gone to American Top Team. But his bread gets buttered with his grappling. And I'm going to go through it a little bit. ADCC European champion multiple times over, most recently in 2019. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Freestyle wrestling base is what he came into MMA with. Again, the 6 title fights. He's had grappling tournaments, wrestling tournaments, all the time through, all the live long day. And for Gamrot, he is one of the trickier guys when it comes to his wrestling and grappling because you don't know where the shot's going to come from. It could be an ankle pick. It could be a single leg. It could be a double leg. As soon as Carlos Diego Ferreira, an accredited grappler, brings his hands up even a little bit, Gamrot jumped in on a double leg. Didn't have great top control in that fight, and that's one of those things with Gamrot. He'll go entry. But just to get those takedowns was amazing for him in that fight.
But we had seen it happen before against Ferreira. That is the thing. Like, Gregor Gillespie was able to consistently out-grapple him in their fight. I get it, but if we're going to prop up Gamrot to this point to where, oh my goodness, if he can out-grapple Ferreira, he can out-grapple anybody. We had seen it done before, and that's why I don't necessarily put a ton of stock into that. Ferreira's looked old as of late.
I did this for the fans. You folks out there are Arman Tsarukyan fans, and let's hear it from you out there in that comment section, because I know it's there. You look at his first fight in the UFC against Islam Makhachev, and it was a fight of the night. 2 judges, 30-27 for Makhachev, 29-28 for Tsarukyan, the second round being the one there. But Tsarukyan flowed in the grappling, and he was the first person to convincingly take down Islam Makhachev. He had his back. He just continued to hold on to it. But Tsarukyan looked good in a loss, and he's looked amazing in the win streak since, and he looked great against Joel Alvarez.
And that's why when you were listing off all of Gamrot's like grappling awards and whatnot, in the back of my head I'm thinking, okay, we said all the same stuff about Joel Alvarez, and he's a really good grappler off his back. What did Arman Tsarukyan do to him? Took him down, hit him with some of those vicious ground and pound I've ever seen since like Curtis Blades fought Alistair Overeem. Opened up multiple cuts on his face to where you barely recognized who Alvarez was. So that's the thing. Like, that's the thing about Arman Tsarukyan. We've seen him grapple with other great grapplers, and at the peak of their powers, if you will, too. And that's why I do think Arman Tsarukyan should have the grappling edge in this fight. The real question is, what does Arman look like if he's not able to get this fight to the mat? Because for Gamrot, we talked about how, yes, he might be better at grappling than he is at striking. He's still a very good striker. I do worry about him against, like, the top 5, because in this division you have guys like Gaethje, Poirier, Oliveira, like, truly elite strikers in this division. But against unranked guys, and even guys in this like 15 to 10 range, I still think Gamrot can win a few rounds on the feet. But the thing about Gamrot is, at a certain point, I think he is going to have to go for a takedown of his own. And if you're going to initiate a scramble with a guy like Arman Tsarukyan, is that really going to be your best path to victory? Because I think Gamrot can grapple off his back a little bit with Tsarukyan to where he won't get immediately busted up and submitted like we've seen some guys in the past against Arman. But I don't think he can stay technique for technique with Arman. I do think he will be a bit of a step behind throughout this fight if we do find these two in long wrestling exchanges. And that'll be, again, where this fight gets very interesting. It's because if Gamrot can keep it on the feet, he should have success, but he is hittable himself, so maybe Arman can land a looping shot like we used to see Khabib do before he leveled up his striking. And for Tsarukyan, can he really make damage happen while he is in that top position? Because I think Gamrot's going to try to scramble a lot. He's a very active fighter himself, especially from that bottom position. But with Arman, it's just, I haven't seen, or I can't believe it until I've seen it. And I don't think I can believe that anybody in this division can convincingly out-grapple Arman Tsarukyan. It's just Gamrot himself, he's cut from the same cloth. He is a very good grappler. This fight's just so competitive no matter where it takes place that's why I'm excited for this fight. Neither guy is as well known as you probably think for them getting a UFC main event, even for a fight night. Like, this is a very high profile sport. Normally they give this to like a Miesha Tate, a Holly Holm. Athletes might be past their prime, but hear me out. They're past their prime. They're not as good as these fighters are, but they have much bigger name recognition, and that's why they're given these opportunities. I just hope these guys make for a phenomenal fight because there should be a lot of eyeballs on this, so hopefully both guys show the best versions of themselves.
354,000 Instagram followers for Tsarukyan to 302 for Gamrot. And when I focus on this one, Mateusz Gamrot is the more complete striker. Never thought I'd say that, but he is a funky southpaw. Now, Tsarukyan had success against a funky southpaw in his UFC debut, even though he lost the fight, and even though there were 30-27s in Islam Makhachev. Like, he's a funky southpaw, and you gotta watch for his strikes. For Gamrot, though, he'll mix in his kicks. He likes to throw a body kick. Could get you in trouble against a guy like Tsarukyan. Or the body kick's there because you're a southpaw fighting a guy who is an orthodox fighter in Tsarukyan. Now, what did Tsarukyan do when he fought Makhachev? He switched his stance and he fought from southpaw in a lot of that fight.
Impressive.
So he was able to work it in. Now, with Tsarukyan on the feet, yes, against Giagos, he looked really good, but he's not necessarily known as a boxer. I know he's only 25. I know he's leveled up in his boxing.
It's wild he's only 25, by the way.
But his big thing for Tsarukyan is his head kick. And I mean, his head kick is deadly from either stance. It's something that you have to watch out for. I think Gamrot's one of the few guys in this division, like Makhachev, that can flow through their grappling with Tsarukyan. To what extent, we'll find out this weekend. And I also thought, doing my tape study on this, watching the KSW fights, watching Mateusz Gamrot do his thing, 21 fights that didn't end in no contest, one that did, but for him, title fight experience, 6 fights, and then again the 2 against Park that are weird, but he's getting ready for these 5-round fights. Go and watch his fight against Thiago Ferreira. He's slowing down on the feet in the second round when he's going to land some of his strikes, and I thought, wow, this guy's going to have a huge advantage there. He's grappling heavy in the first round. He's grappling heavy in the second round. Yes, he wins the fight. Yes, he wins it by finish. But motherfucker, I worry about that when you're taking on a guy like Arman Tsarukyan.
I think that's a great point to bring up, too. And I think it's a great point to bring up how he has had past 5-round experience, but it still seems to be an issue.
Tsarukyan doesn't have 5-round experience. He's an MFP lightweight champ. Those fights were 3-round fights that he won by decision. He's never fought a 5-round fight. I don't necessarily worry about it.
He's a minus 45 diesel machine, though. This guy does not quit under any conditions. Like, that's the thing about Arman. Arman is like a Paulo Costa, even. Like, you can look at some guys, they don't have the 5-round experience, but you look at the way they were able to fight in 3-round fights, or even for 1 round, and you look at it and say, hey, if they can just tether it a little bit more, if they can just figure out their own Goldilocks zone, they will then have better cardio. I think that's a good point for Tsarukyan. He just knows what pace to fight at, and that's a very important thing for any fighter to have in their first 5-round fight.
So I came into this one, I'll be completely honest with everybody. I was looking at the odds and I went, Mateusz Gamrot, championship experience, better, more well-rounded striker, good in the scrambles. I'm picking him to win this fight. I'm dead serious. I had Mateusz Gamrot. And then I started doing my tape study, and it started to chip away at my confidence in Mateusz Gamrot. And again, threw it out there in the YouTube community tab for you folks, and I know there's so... Arman Tsarukyan's one of those fighters where like there's fans, and they come out and they let it be known. So taping the fights tonight, we threw it out 7 hours ago. 70% of the fans going with Arman Tsarukyan, 30% with Mr. Gamrot. For Bob saying, is Arman the greatest rep prospect? What I mean is he's so talented, but I feel he's still rough in bringing his whole MMA game together. I feel he could be great if he can mix in the stand-up with the wrestling, but he seems very rigid. We've got Hanky Tura. I'm not doubting Tsarukyan MMA Tsarukyan anymore. The one and only Gamrot with the upset. The Wretch saying, I don't think Gamrot has a chance. Daryl saying Gamrot under the Wretch. Travis saying, finally someone agrees with me. I think Gamrot's got this one. There's going to be a lot of fan confidence with Tsarukyan, I think. More so, people just heart and soul going with Gamrot than really able to pick apart, with Tsarukyan, not able to pick apart Gamrot's game plan. Hopefully we've done a decent enough job of that in this one, Matt. I think the odds, I mean, listen, you've got Tsarukyan as the favorite, open minus 140, minus 255, Gamrot open plus 120, plus 203. So if you see the value there in Gamrot, like I did before I really threw it all together, maybe you want to go with Gamrot. I've just been swayed by the research I've done towards Tsarukyan. In wanting to pick an underdog, I want Gamrot, but I have a hard time.
These guys are going to grapple at some point. They just are. Like, Gamrot, it's in his DNA. He cannot just strike for 25 minutes. He can strike for 10. He can strike for 5, but at a certain point, he is going to need his own grappling offensively to at least even switch up the pace of the fight. It's like a boxer who goes for clinches. Even if they're really good on the outside, you just want to give your opponent a different look at a certain point. And I do think that sort of the factory reset for Gamrot is going to be going for grappling, I think Arman Tsarukyan is one of the last guys you want to grapple with because he can stay a very similar fighter in that first round that he can in the third round. And I do think he'll be able to then extend himself to the fourth and the fifth. I think this will be a great fight, especially if Gamrot can keep it on the feet for a long time early on. Maybe we learn a lot more about Tsarukyan striking against an upper echelon guy like Gamrot that we just don't know so far. But I do like Arman for his ground and pound ability, for his scrambles, and for his cardio. I really do think those three things help set him apart from your other average kind of prospect. I was just so impressed by what he did to Joel Alvarez. That was one of those performances where I thought he was good, don't get me wrong, but now I truly think he's great.
And it has to be said, I get it, Tsarukyan's the fan favorite. I get he's the actual favorite. This is a big step up from Olivier Aubin-Mercier, Davi Ramos, Joel Alvarez, from Christos Giagos. Like, Mateusz Gamrot has one friggin' loss on his record, champ from another organization, longtime champ, lots of title fights, and he's won 3 fights in a row by finish, the only loss being a close one to Guram Kutateladze. Same thing for Arman Tsarukyan. Comes in, fight of the night against Islam Makhachev, and it's only been, up from there. And we know how good Tsarukyan is, and we know how good Guram is as well for being an unranked fighter in his own right. So, Matt, both of us going with Arman Tsarukyan to get the win. It pains me to say it. It is such an amazing fight. Hopefully you enjoyed the videos here. If you don't, so be it. If you do, toss us a like. It helps out the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Question mark kicks coming up on Saturday. If there's any changes to the fights, we have the opportunity. We'll do it so on the show, but also we'll update you throughout the week here on the channel. So if anything happens, make sure you look out for that. You can find us at Fight Night Picks, Craig Allen FNP, Matt Allen FNP, Instagram, Twitter, doing the damn thing. Some great fights coming up, Matt. I know you're looking forward to a lot of the ones on this card, too.
This is a really great card. I know it might not have the most name value on it.
Real steel and sex appeal, not quite there?
It certainly isn't, but if you just want to talk about MMA skills and great fights, I think this card has something for everybody. Tyfon Chukwu versus Carlos Ulberg is a weird fight, but it's a great fight. Raulian Paiva versus Sergey Morozov is one that you're not going to want to miss kind of on the earlier portion of the card.
Mario Bautista, Brian Kelleher, one that I'm really looking forward to.
And hopefully in the co-main event, I've hyped it up enough. I really do think Shavkat's one of the top prospects in any division in the sport, so I think him against Neil Magny is a really fun fight. And again, for the main event, we can't say enough. These guys are both amazing prospects, if you will, because Gamrot I don't necessarily think is one, but Arman definitely fits the bill. Should be a great week of fights.
An amazing week of fights. We can't wait for it, so keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.